on to the academic part of the agenda this evening, the keynote address. I now invite Professor Indika Karuna Tilaka to introduce the keynote speaker this evening, Professor Ronald Harden.
It's a great pleasure and privilege to introduce Professor Ronald Harden, the keynote speaker of this evening, the guru and mentor of many medical educationists in this audience, including myself. Ronald McLachlan Harden, a graduate of the Medical School of Glasgow, Scotland, UK, and trained as an endocrinologist, then devoted his entire career in developing new approaches to medical education, curriculum planning, and teaching. Ideas which he has pioneered, including the Objective Structured Clinical Examination, OSCE, giving him the title, the father of OSCE, which has been universally adopted as a standard approach in assessment, the SPICES model, and outcome-based approach. He has published more than 700 papers in peer-reviewed international index journals, and he is the co-editor of the best-selling book, The Practical Guide for Medical Teachers, and the author for Essential Skills in Medical Teacher, which has received a British Medical Association commendation. Professor Ronald Harden is the editor-in-chief of Medical Teacher and the emeritus professor of medical education in University of Dundee. He has been recognized globally for his contributions to excellence in medical education, including being awarded the Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, and he was also recognized with prestigious Hubbard Award of the National Board of Medical Examiners in USA. He was awarded by the late Queen the OBE for his service in medical education, and was presented with the Mentoring, Innovation, Leadership in Medical Education Scholarship, the Miles Award, for the outstanding contribution to the advancement of medical education and academic medicine in Singapore in 2006. During the same year, he was awarded the Karolinska Institute Prize for Research in Medical Education, which is considered as a Nobel Prize in Medical Education. In 2010, he was the recipient of the Amy Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of his contribution to medical education. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, I take great pleasure in presenting to you Professor Ronald McLachlan Harden, the keynote speaker of the APMEC-2024, Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Good evening, honourable ministers, honoured guests, Vice-Chancellor, deans, conference participants, friends, and of course, Dujipa. I'm delighted to be invited to contribute to this APMEC conference. When I received the invitation, I was wondering what would the title of my presentation be. And looking out the window of my house in Dundee, I saw this rainbow. And it gave me the inspiration, why not talk about somewhere over the rainbow with regard to artificial intelligence in medical education. So that was the title.
Skies are blue and the
Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. And one of the aspirations, I think, for this conference is that about artificial intelligence, that the dreams that we dare to dream really do come true. That is a challenge for this conference. The dreams that we dare to dream. In a recent book, The Coming Wave, by Mustafa Solomon, who was one of the leading figures in the development of artificial intelligence, he suggested that we're approaching a critical threshold in the history of our species. It's as serious as that, the development of artificial intelligence. And of course, in medicine, as we've heard, and in this book by Peter Lee and colleagues, The AI Revolution in Medicine, it talks about the AI revolution in medicine. It's about to transform medicine.
So could artificial intelligence be the cure?
I feel like I'm working at the forefront of something that could potentially be revolutionary to healthcare in the future.
AI has the power to transform the ways patients are diagnosed and treated.
And we think it will become a game changer.
A game changer in medicine, but also it's suggested in this book by Pritin Shah, a game changer in education, the future of education, teaching in the age of artificial intelligence. The aim of this conference is a potential, suggests the authors, to revolutionize how we teach and learn. And in an MC Horizon report, it talked about artificial intelligence to revolutionize higher education. It showed a robot. And not that I'm a fan of robots, but it did remind me, however, of an experience I had a couple of years ago at Seoul Airport when I was going on to Kuala Lumpur and arrived at the departure gate to be confronted by this robot. It said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Well, I'm wanting to fly with Malaysian on to Kuala Lumpur." And it said, "Well, just follow me and I'll take you to the gate." And it turned round, I followed it, and it said, "Have you turn on the left here?" and it guided me to the gate. So robots and artificial intelligence. But just about to be published in Medical Teacher is a scoping review that updates all of this, that talks about artificial intelligence in medical education. Where are we with artificial intelligence in medical education? It reviews something like 277 papers. You see here just some of the countries around the world universally producing evidence about artificial intelligence, and it also looked at the dates of the papers published, the first about 1992, but how this rate has exponentially increased with a rapid acceleration since 2018, with now about 277, and I'm sure even in recent months increasing this number. So it's an exciting developments reported in that review in medical education. And what I want to suggest, that just like Dorothy, somewhere over the rainbow, which captures the essence of our hopes and dreams, that in health professions education, I believe we can have a real hope and an optimism that the dream of AI will come true. That's our hope. Two aspects in health profession education which we've already heard about this evening. AI as curriculum content to prepare the future physician who will apply AI to patient care, but also the impact of AI on teaching and learning methods to enhance how we approach our teaching and learning. And in this AME Guide, Ken Masters talked about the artificial intelligence in medical education, and that all AI should be present in the content and the curriculum to prepare future physicians to apply to patient care. But also the impact of AI on teaching and learning methods, enhancing our teaching and learning. About 7 years ago, I wrote this paper in Medical Teacher, 10 key features of the future medical school. I said, not an impossible dream. 10 what I thought were aspirations for the future medical school. This was, for me, certainly an exciting vision. But, and there's a big but, I think changes have been disappointing. If you look at these 10 features, not many have actually been implemented around the world. A bit disappointing. And my assumption and the assertion for this conference is that all of these could have been achieved if we'd had AI, and the AI could and can contribute to these developments. And that's what I want a little talk about. One of the developments I talked about was the move, for example, from just-in-case learning to just-in-time learning. A big problem in education we have, of course, is information overload. With more than 60,000 diagnoses in medicine and more than 6,000 interventions in medicine, we can't expect our students to learn all of these just in case they need these. So I think the days of just in case, learning everything just in case at some time in the future you might need it, is past. We need to move to just-in-time learning, learning when you need to know something, just-in-time learning. This is very appropriate and very common, of course, in the military. And in this interesting article in the Journal of Military Learning, it talked about this, the importance, the change of training in the military to just-in-time learning, talking about ubiquitous computing. All the military personnel have their own personal computer with them, training them as they need it, operational decision support systems, a personal assistant for learning. And Schatz talked about this just-in-time learning as a notion shifts key portions of learning away from something formally bound by time and place, like medical school, into something continuous, timely, and expressly relevant to each learner's task, state, and situation. Just-in-time learning. And in this book, The AI Revolution in Medicine, it gave, interestingly, in the prologue, an example in medicine of just-in-time learning. I'll just summarize briefly the very detailed and moving description in this book. Suddenly, it said the patient was crashing. His heart rate rocketed to over 160 beats per minute, but his blood pressure fell dangerously to 80/50. Second-year medical resident Kristen Chan felt her own heart racing as she was called to deal with the emergency on the emergency code. She tapped, however, on her GPT-4 app and spoke on her phone. Patient Juan Alvarez is not responding to blood pressure support. I don't know what to do. And the matter-of-fact response came instantly. Juan Alvarez's white blood count has dropped over the last 3 blood draws. The antibiotic he's on is associated with a drop in white blood cells in 5% of patients. An article reports that GSCF infusion was highly effective in reversing the drop in white blood count. The relevant article popped up on Christine's phone. She asked GPT-4 to summarize it, and convinced about what she should do, Kristen then administered the infusion with positive outcome. Just an example for her of just-in-time learning. So a move, I think, from just-in-case learning, which is no longer feasible in medical education, to just-in-time learning, facilitated by AI. Another development I suggested was the move from a standard uniform curriculum to much more adaptive learning. A move from the situation where all of our students go through a similar program. We try to treat them differently, but basically it's a similar program coming out at the other end as a doctor. Ignoring the individual requirements. Each student is different. You know, as an endocrinologist, every patient in my waiting room with thyroid disease had a different diagnosis and a problem, and they were treated each one differently, and yet we're trying to treat all our students the same. Each has, just like our patients, individual requirements. So I think we need to move away from one-size-fits-all to adaptive learning. But it really hadn't happened, although there's been a lot of arguments for it. But I think with AI, it is possible. Even way back in 2012, the Open University Innovation Report talked about learning analytics, facilitating this adaptive learning, that AI can help personalized precision learning, which is very much now on today's agenda. The learning analytics can help through knowing each student's academic background, their engagement with course elements, their performance in assessments, and how they've communicated, and can develop a personalized, precision-based program for each student. A third area I talked about was the need to move away from a magical mystery tour, which is the curriculum, just like the Beatles suggested, to much more a mapped journey, a curriculum map of what is planned for a student in the program. We discussed this in the APMEC Guide on Curriculum Mapping, where there's a need for a transparent and authentic teaching and learning approach, a visual representation of how the different elements of the curriculum relate to each other. We need to make transparent the destination, the learning outcomes. We need to make transparent how students should get there, the different learning opportunities. We need to make transparent for them the support available and the students' progress through the assessment. But, and again it's been a big but, progress has been very slow with curriculum mapping. There's been some, but not significant developments in the area. And part of the reason I suspect is because we need, for effective curriculum mapping, collaboration between content experts, educationists, and technologists. And this is not always easy. But the answer, again, I believe, would have been and is artificial intelligence. Ken Masters, in his guide that I referred to, talked about this, that one of the huge potentials, he said, for artificial intelligence to overnight improve medical education is by curriculum mapping. Even quoted by saying, who would have thought that curriculum design and mapping could be such an exciting venture? He said, if we use artificial intelligence in this way in curriculum mapping, this can be an exciting journey both for the teachers and the students. Another area I suggested was the move from compartmentalized to more programmatic assessment. Programmatic assessment. And again, that's been disappointing. The traditional assessment still persists in many schools. It's compartmentalized, assessment's fragmented. Decisions are based on isolated events and single examinations at one point in time. Whereas what we need is more programmatic assessment, where decisions about a learner are based on an aggregation and analysis of evidence from a whole sort of different sources collected over time, such as in communication skills, assessing that competence. Of course, getting evidence from the OSCE, but not relying just on that, taking it from these other sources of evidence throughout the program, and then making a decision about the student's communication skills ability. This move to programmatic assessment very much on the agenda in assessment, and the Ottawa conference in 2024 has this as one of the features. And if you want to hear more about this, there's at the booth, the AME Medical Teacher booth, and Mary Lawson, who's the local organizer in Melbourne for the conference, I think even has some koala bears to give away. But go there and you hear more about the conference and how it's going to answer some of the problems about artificial intelligence and programmatic assessment. Another area that I'd suggested where there's been disappointing movement is the move from medical education almost as an ivory tower to medical education much more based in the real world with an authentic curriculum. Down from the ivory tower to introduce an authentic curriculum from the ivory tower to the real world, where learners will develop the ability to perform in the workplace as a doctor. I mean, that isn't what our education is all about, that we teach our students to perform in the workplace as a doctor. And AI with virtual and augmented reality has a major role to play in this. We've already seen a number of papers already published showing how virtual reality and virtual patients can be developed using artificial intelligence. So it's already very much on the agenda. And the final trend I had mentioned that has been disappointing has been the notion that the student moves from someone who's simply a client or a consumer, someone we teach, to someone who's a partner in the learning process, who's a partner with us in learning. And I published just earlier this year with my daughter Jenny Harden this book, The Changing Role of the Student. And we looked at these different roles of the student and how these are changing, and how there's a participation ladder. Where are we in our medical school in terms of the role of students? Is it there's no participation, no real partnership between students at the bottom end? Or who's controlling the curriculum? Is it the students in full control? Perhaps not viable, but who's controlling? And this participation ladder, moving up it, where students get more involved, more control, better shared decision making, where there's more equality between teachers and students. And of course, with artificial intelligence, it makes this ladder much easier to climb and much easier to get a true working partnership between students and staff. But the question at the top, I just wanted to change tack for a moment, is the question of control of the curriculum. Who controls the curriculum? Who decides the curriculum? Is it the students or the teachers or a partnership? And what I wanted to rather provocatively suggest to this conference, that perhaps AI should be involved in controlling the curriculum. Could this, in fact, I even want to suggest, could this be a modern Turing test for AI? In Mustafa's book, The Coming Wave, he talks about, of course, the traditional Turing test, which we all are aware of, that can AI display human-like conversational abilities for a lengthy period of time so that the human can't tell whether they're speaking to a machine or not. He said that's now passed. Almost that has been achieved very ably. But what he said, we need a modern Turing test to test AI. We need a modern Turing test. And this is how he described a modern Turing test, is can AI accomplish an open-ended, complex goal that requires interpretation, judgment, creativity, decision-making, and acting across multiple domains over an extended period of time? And what I wanted to suggest to this meeting, that perhaps developing a medical school might be such a challenge. If, for example, in a country there were 5 new medical schools to be established with the aim of graduating doctors who meet needs of the population, why not let's ask one of these schools to be developed by AI? Why not ask AI to develop, take responsibility for organizing a new medical school? It may sound ridiculous. I don't think it is. I mean, just to test it, I said, one of the reasons why I think we should be doing this, we've not done very well without AI in the past. This was the Lancet report that talked about the problems with our present system in medical education: fragmented, outdated, and static curricula that produced ill-equipped graduates. So something wrong with the present way we've developed medical education. Could AI do better is the challenge. And thinking about it, I said, what sort of questions would AI need to address if it was setting up a new medical school? I just put some of them down here. And just to test it as an experiment, I just took 2 of these challenges and asked AI, how would you set up a new medical school? The first one I said, what would be the vision for your medical school? You're given the challenge of setting up a new medical school to graduate doctors to meet the needs of the local community. What would be the vision for the school? And I must say I was hugely impressed. I'd very much like to go to the school and take part in it. I've just tried to summarize some of the answers I got back from AI. Some of the headings. There were 15 parts of this vision, and that's just a very quick look at the first 5. Here's the second 5. This was part of the vision for this new medical school that AI was going to create. And then the final 5. So 15 visions for this new medical school. I thought, that's all right, having a vision for the medical school, but what about a more practical issue? I said, what about, and I looked down the list of questions, I said, why don't we take something like recruitment of staff? How would you set about recruiting staff for your new medical school? How would you recruit staff? Because this is a potential major problem at the moment. How would you recruit staff for your new medical school? And again, I was astonished. I haven't given the details here, but it gave 18 suggestions. And I must say, I was hugely impressed with some of these suggestions. A couple of them I'd never thought of before. I've never seen, although I've been involved with a lot of recruitment, I've never seen them involved. They came up with unique answers as well as set answers. So very much answers of this. So I just wonder if a modern Turing test, if they're looking for a modern Turing test, I know they're looking for one at the moment, would we be out of the line by suggesting that AI could be used to develop a new medical school? Coming back to Mustafa Suleiman's criteria for the test, open-ended, complex goal, requires interpretation, judgment, creativity, decision-making, action across multiple domains. All of these would be required to set up a new school. But maybe instinctively you feel that would it work? How could the AI make a decision and move on to if it got something wrong? And I think we've now got to a stage where that is possible. AI can recognize its own mistakes, develop new systems, and move on. The time of autonomous agents are now with us, where the AI is taking over and making decisions, correcting things, and proceeding with new courses of action that whoever designed it may not even have thought about. So I think it is absolutely a feasible idea, this letting us AI develop a medical school. But just coming back to the future of education and AI, I suggested, as Pritin Shah has suggested, has the potential to revolutionize teaching and learning. I talked about my own disappointment with some of the issues I talked about in the past, and how AI, in fact, could actually help just-in-time learning, the move from just-in-case, just-in-time learning, a personal coach everyone can have to work with them, with AI. The move to precision learning, learning analytics through AI, can achieve that quite easily now. The move to an authentic curriculum, again, much more possible now with AI through a virtual augmented reality. Curriculum mapping, which has been very difficult, as Ken McMaster said, with AI is now a joy. Programmatic assessment with predictive analytics, again, very much possible. And the student as a partner can be easily facilitated by AI. So all of this is possible somewhere over the rainbow.
Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true.
What I wanted to suggest was we can find our own version of somewhere over the rainbow, just as Dorothy did. We can find our own version. Maybe this conference should be looking at what is version of somewhere over the rainbow where our dreams can come true. Because AI is not just a dream, I'm arguing. It's a rapidly evolving reality. And this will play a major role in health professions' education. And the challenge of this conference is to establish that. It will involve all our changing role as teachers. With Pat Webber, we wrote this book, The 8 Roles of the Teacher, and this is changing already because of AI. AI is accelerating our responsibilities as teachers. But I just wanted to end with two quotes. One is from Ken Masters, a very provocative thought. And he said in his guide, those who ignore AI will have temporary comfort. It'll be comfortable, easy just to ignore it, put it aside. But when they finally realize that it's all around them, they wonder how they missed it. You know, we'll miss it. We won't realize we've missed something till it's actually happened. And the final quote I wanted to leave with the conference is from another interesting book by Hightower on academia and AI. And the author suggests that the future of higher education isn't just being written by AI, it's being co-authored by you, the readers of the book. And what I wanted to end by suggesting that the future is being co-authored by all of the people at this conference. Our responsibility, which is a huge one, is to co-author this. What is the role of AI in higher profession and medical education? Where is it to be over the rainbow? Thank you.